It's a shift. I don't even know how you describe it, Michael, this shift that says, all right, look, there are a lot of people, you can agree or disagree about whether you want more military, but there are a lot of experienced people who say we do need to upgrade the military and a lot who don't. But this concept of reducing our soft power and our influence, which we have seen in the president's behavior in the first 40 days, but now being backed up by an actual thinning down of the State Department and our diplomatic efforts around the world, I don't even know if there's a school of thought for that other than isolationism.
Well, you're right that the military spending was frozen for so many years in some ways by the sequester.
Right.
Putting that aside, this has more of the reek of the kind of pretend budgeting where you pretend that you can get it all by closing down the Washington Monument and cutting out of the discretionary spending.
Well, we heard some of that in the sequester. We heard that federal government chefs earn too much money and these people earn too much money, but you can't ever add up to the amount of money you need.
Well, and presidents often will find themselves late in their term when they've almost become a lame duck, sending up a budget that is, as is said, dead on arrival. Here's a president in his first month in office, maybe needing a reset, the most unpopular new president since they invented polling, and a budget that seems like if it doesn't go more in depth and more into detail than we've heard up until now, Congress will roll its eyes and do its own thing. That is not a recipe for the kind of I alone can fix it strongman leadership that Trump wanted people to think he was going to offer.
You know this, Wilson. If you eliminated all of discretionary spending for the next 10 years,
still can't get to
you still can't
get to where he needs to go.
That means we spend nothing on anything but entitlements.
Yeah.
You can't get to it.
But this is an Achilles heel for Republicans because we've had a really bad 10 years when it comes to budgeting. We haven't even met the basic rules of budgeting. You know, in the Constitution, Congress only, as you know, has one written out responsibility, and it's appropriations.
Pass the 13 appropriations.
Yeah, they've actually got to do this. And we've really been bad at it. We've almost become, it's become so partisan. Can they do something whereby the president and the executive branch puts forward a budget and there's really robust discussion about it and there's a vote and by October we actually have a budget?
To your point, I served there. I don't think there was a time I was in Congress, in my 10 years, that we actually passed the budget by September 30 for the beginning of the fiscal year, October 1. It's the only thing, to your point, we're asked to do. Trump is saying he's going to do it. And he's going to have a big test on his hands if he's able to convince this Congress to run some deficits, if he's able to convince his own OMB chief, who comes from that Freedom Caucus, that this is okay to do. It's unclear if he's going to be able to do that.
The White House budget director did come out yesterday at the beginning of the press conference and speak the language of, we're getting a budget out there, we're going to go through this process, it's going to be passed, and we're going to get back to the business that Congress is supposed to do. Never mind naming post offices and things like that. They need a budget.
Well, this is a little bit like the famous parable of the dog that caught the car, and now what is it going to do with the car? There's been 10 years of Republican oppositional taunts like, oh, we're going to repeal Obamacare on the first day. Everybody in the country now should understand the president and the Congress are controlled by one party. I think there was a lot of confusion before because of the star power of somebody like Barack Obama or whoever is the president. So not only will the Republicans in Congress have to grapple with these numbers, whatever the tone we hear from the speech tonight, they will own that too. After the most divisive and dark inaugural address ever and the most angry and self-absorbed presidential press conference ever, what kind of tone will we hear from this president? I'm not necessarily betting it's going to be unifying and forward-looking.
Well, I hope he spends some time with the budget. I'm a bit of a geek about these things, but I think it's important for people to remember that the budget is the writing down of the priorities of that government. It's where they put their money where their mouth is. So, you know, they can say anything they want to do, but until it shows up in that document, it doesn't make any sense.
And he will have an opportunity. Look, I hear Michael, and I hear a lot of my Democratic friends. I don't remember a State of the Union that was terrible. I remember State of the Unions I didn't agree with.
Sure.
He's starting out with a good title, Renewing America. Sure. And he's going to have to navigate some tough trends tonight around health care. The governors were just there. The main governors opposing his health care plan because they didn't want to see Medicaid reform too harshly were Republican governors. So I'm like you. I'm a nerd in this regard. I want to see not only I want to see some of the details about how we get these things done, because ultimately where the rubber meets the road or where legislators and governors and mayors have to legislate at home.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I will tell everybody.